Hello, it's time for another one of the rune videos. We're very close to being done this series now. We've only got 4 more to go, including this one. Though after that I might do some kind of a video talking about, how to use, or how I like to use the runes in divination practice. Today we're looking at the Laguz rune. This is the letter L. And if you've looked over the playlist, the Laguz rune is part of the last ayat, and so far in that ayat what we've seen is Tiwaz, which is the spear, war, conflict, victory, etc. Berkana, which is the birch tree, which is the feminine, nurturing, so you have the masculine and the feminine in this abstract form. Then you had Eos, which is the horse, and Manas, which is the man, right? So you had the animal world and the human world. And now this is Laguz, which is the lake. It's followed by Inguz, which is a symbol related to the harvest. So this is the wild spaces, and Inguz is cultivation, as in, not as in spiritual cultivation in this case, as in literal cultivation of the land. So Laguz is a lake or a marshy area, and we tend to think, and I've seen some interpretations, because this is like a marsh or a swamp or something like that, some interpretations of this rune from our perspective today look at this as, this is in some ways not a healthy rune or something like that, right? And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I think that's based on our perspective, because we tend to think, if you say a swamp, you think of this kind of dangerous and unpleasant place to be in. But in the context of the ancient world, the marshes were places that, yes, they had dangerous elements to them, and it was recognized that, there were like poisons in the marsh and possibly danger lurking in the deeper waters of the marsh. You had to be careful when you were there. It wasn't an ordered place. It was a wild place. It was a place outside of the order of man. However, it had many potential beneficial elements to it. The marsh was a place that was very rich in hunting, in fish, and in gathering, right? Things that were essential for life. And in fact, Laguz is also connected to the leek, which was a very important vegetable for the Northern European pagans. It was used both as a food source and also as a source of medicine. The leek is in ancient records associated with like positive and healing medicines, right? The leek is part of the onion family, if you don't know. It grows in wet areas. So there's a connection, and some people think this might just be the symbol of a leek rather than a lake, right? Because it looks like a leek with a bent. When leeks get tall enough, their tops start to fold over. So it could be that. But it grows in the marsh. It's a symbol of the marsh, right? And this rune is the last one in this, out of the Futhark, that is a symbol that we know predates the Germanic pagan alphabet. This symbol has been found carved in ancient caves at times that are calculated to have been of human activity, like they were carved there sometime as late as 23,000 years ago and as recently as 17,000 years ago. So these are very, very old, and they are they may or may not have had the same symbolism, but they're very ancient symbols. And the symbol of Laguz, it ties itself to this idea of potential sustenance, but also potential danger. It represents a place that is wild, that is outside of our control, but that has things of value that if you can go out there and navigate it, you can find things to bring back with you. You can find medicine, literally, like the leek, right? You can find magic. You can find things that are of use to you. We could interpret it as representing the depth of the subconscious and the effect that the subconscious has on the conscious, right? Whether you're when you're walking along through the path of the subconscious, you might run into areas of toxic swamp gas, or you might find fish or game or medicine or herbs that are used for healing or things like that, right? So it's something where if you approach it cautiously but consciously, you can draw out from under those wild and uncontrolled depths things that are important and things that are useful. So it's the journey of water, the journey into the deep places, right? That are related. In the first ayat you have Raidu, which is the solar journey, right? The chariot of the sun. And then in the second ayat you have Awas, which is the journey of death, the ash tree, right? And this is the journey of the water, the journey into the depth of nature. There's an important distinction between the world that man controlled in the natural world and the wild place. And this is about being able to go out to the wild place. And you search in there and you find something that is of use, but only if you are skilled in doing so. There's a story about how this rune was used in healing magic. And there's a very famous story about a magician who had learned a little bit about how to make bind runes and things like that, healing runes. And so when somebody in his village was sick, he tried to make use of a Laguz-based healing rune to cure them, and it almost killed the patient until a much more talented Vidyam, or more talented ancient pagan magician, showed up and explained that he didn't understand enough for how to use it properly. So he, the same plant can be poison or it can be medicine, right? In the ancient world, there is a fine line between it. There still is today, right? You have a little bit of painkiller and it can be of great help to you. You have too much of it and you die, right? So it's about, part of the message of this rune has to do with being able to understand yourself and understand the nature outside of yourself enough that you can navigate through the uncontrolled parts, because it's easy to navigate through the controlled parts of your life. Those parts are, because the immediate world around you, for most people, has a certain level of control, and you know what that is. You know how to handle it, right? But what a lot of people don't develop, unless they develop within themselves a certain level of discipline and self-inquiry, is how to maneuver through the uncontrolled parts, the unexpected things, the place where you do not know how things are. And so you have to be able to adapt in a completely different way than in a controlled environment where you know how things are and you just have to work there. So this is a rune that has those many applications. When you get this rune in a central part in a casting, it is obviously related to deep events and to situations where you have to be able to be very perceptive and be able to adapt yourself to the environment around you, be watchful of the environment and know where to step and know what to do and know how to apply things. And if you don't know how to, you have to stop and be really attentive and pay attention about how you can then apply those things. And if you do that, then you end up mastering the secrets of Laguz and their use for healing, for figurative or maybe literal healing. So if you like this video, if this is the first rune video you've just happened upon, be sure to check out the rest of the runes playlist. It's detailed one by one of all the ancient pagan runes. And if you like that, check out the other playlists. There's a completed playlist about the tarot. There's another one that's still in progress, hasn't gotten quite as far as the runes have yet, about the I Ching. and also my spiritual playlists on things like the Bhagavad Gita and the poems of Hafiz and everything else, and the Yi-Fa Society playlist, which talks about, besides the I Ching, the path of practice that I work in, and how if you're interested, you can work with it too. And if you're very interested, you can apply to join the Yi-Fa Society in order to engage in a coordinated curriculum of spiritual practice involving meditation and Qigong and the study of the I Ching, to engage in cultivation of consciousness inside your own life. If that's not your deal, that's okay. You can just like this video, subscribe to the channel, and watch the channel. It's all free. And speaking of which, if you look in the description below, there will be a link to the Yi-Fa Society newsletter, where you aren't really going to get any newsletters because we haven't produced them in a very long time. But if you subscribe to it, in the introductory email that you receive when you subscribe, you'll find a link to a PDF of the Path and the Power. So if you haven't, if you've checked out the Magician's I Ching and you like that, the Path and the Power, or my Bhagavad Gita book, the Path and the Power is a PDF book of my interpretation and commentary of the Tao Te Ching. So it's a good combination with the I Ching, and it's completely free on PDF if you just click the subscription. I've got it there mainly. It's not trying to sell you anything. It's just so that it's available to people in a format and in a way that they can access it with relative ease. So be sure to keep your eyes open for the next video. But if you subscribe, at least you'll be alerted by it, right? And I guess that's everything for today. Thank you very much.